office been investigated?
I can't speak to what the gang unit was doing at around this time. They were in a section of the office to which I didn't have access. Now, if I knocked on the door, if they were there, they would generally let me in, but I didn't just have unfettered access to their area such that I could wander in at any given point. So they were, by design, closed off from the rest of the office.
Well, certainly you were aware generally of whether there was as you were working this Donovan Thomas case, whether there was an active investigation into YSL.
Yes, there was. And so to answer your question, to the best of my knowledge, as far as I knew, or as far as I can remember, the investigation into YSL really started with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Okay, so 2015. And what about investigations into Jeffrey Williams?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant?
I'm alleging that this has been a strategic decision to withhold the prosecution of Shannon Stillwell, who they claim to have had a case with or against, a solid case against, since 2015. And I want to know why they waited 8 years to bring this
Well,
case.
then why don't you ask him?
Well, I want to know what investigation.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead and ask him, please.
To your knowledge, how long have you had an investigation ongoing, when I say you, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, against Jeffrey Williams?
For me personally, it would have been around, I want to say April of 2016, when I found out that he rented the car that was utilized in the drive-by shooting.
Okay. What about, not you personally, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office?
That I can't answer. As far as I know, I don't know. I have no idea. If there were any other investigations regarding Mr. Jeffrey Williams, I don't know about them.
Well, could you answer if you knew, do you believe that you were the first person to begin an investigation into Jeffrey Williams, or do you believe that there was already investigations into Jeffrey Williams?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance into investigations regarding Jeffrey Williams.
I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did you have discussions with Paul Howard about the Donovan Thomas case?
Yes.
How often?
Well, there would obviously, every few months, actually. Maybe there were times it would actually be more often than that. It was definitely not one or two. I can tell you that. It was more than that.
Was he familiar with the facts of the case as alleged?
Yes.
Would Mr. Paul Howard have had access to the gang unit of the District Attorney's Office that you did not have unfettered access to?
I would presume yes. I guess I never asked him, nor did he ever tell me. It never came up, but given that he was the head of the entire office, I would assume that he had access to every room of the office. But I'm only assuming.
Do leaders of different units within the office meet with each other?
Yes, yes.
Is there coordination between units in the District Attorney's Office?
Yes, of course.
Was there coordinations between units back in 2015?
Yes.
Could there have been discussions that you were not privy to about these matters?
I'm sure.
Okay. Mr. Sprinkle, you have, is it fair to say that you largely have an investigative function within the District Attorney's Office?
Yes, for the most part.
But you all are also an attorney.
I am.
You have a bar card.
I do.
You're familiar with the laws of, the rules of evidence in Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. You would agree that we're in here today not on a murder case, but a large RICO case, which one part of it has an alleged murder?
I am familiar with the indictment that is before the court, that is being litigated right now, and I am familiar that the primary or the first count or couple of counts is a RICO case. As far as I'm concerned, I was primarily, if not really exclusively, concerned with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Correct. But you are aware that this indictment that we're all in here today involves more than just the 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas.
I'm aware of that, yes.
Okay. And there are 4 people that you chose to charge and indict. Well, we'll get to that. There's 4 people that you advised the state to indict for the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Well, I believe there are 5, and I was definitely part of meetings regarding the indictment. But again, this is really Don Geary that was leading the charge on who to indict for the murder. Now, was I influential? Of course,
Okay.
but I wasn't the one who ultimately made that decision. But
You weren't the one to make a decision. When was this case ready to take to the grand jury, the alleged murder of Donovan Thomas?
was well, it wasn't an alleged murder. He absolutely was murdered. It was May of 2022.
Oh, it wasn't ready?
No, wait, when was the case presented to the grand jury?
When was it ready to take to the grand jury?
I can't, again, because Don Geary was the attorney that was working on that, and I wasn't, well, I guess it was ready when we presented it, right? I would assume.
Well, that's when your office chose to present it.
Yes.
I'm asking when it was ready.
I don't, you would have to ask Don Geary that.
Okay.
Because as you said, this is more just the murder of Donovan Thomas is a big RICO case, so.
I'm aware of that, but I'm very interested in when the singular incident, the January 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas, was ready to present to the grand jury.
I would just have to say May of 2022, unless you can define the word ready a little, with a little more specificity.
That's when your office decided to present it, is your answer.
Right, correct.
Mr. Sharp, hold on one second.
Just so you guys know that the court trial that's only being played in the left ear, it has nothing to do with my audio. I have it in stereo. I'm sure you hear my mic in stereo, but they're only playing it in mono on the left ear.
I don't know if he's arrested his in jail for those things. Okay. So I wouldn't necessarily. I can argue the booking. I just receive credit for every one of those days towards the sentence. Whenever they call those other crimes. Sorry. Yes, right. He's also arrested for drug charges. He had nothing to do with it. I don't have a separate drug charge. Not for that. Okay. No, I can't help you with that. I would just ask. No, do it. Do what you can. Like, no. No, I'm not doing it all. Yep.
All right, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court once again. You're aware of the rules of evidence in Georgia,
Yes,
okay, that dictate what is admissible at trial,
that's correct.
okay? You are aware that the rules of evidence are different for a RICO case, correct?
That's correct.
You're aware that typically in a criminal case, quote unquote, bad character evidence is not admissible against a defendant.
With exceptions governed by 404B.
Right. And 404B, propensity evidence would not be admissible under 404B.
No, it's motive, intent, knowledge, plan or scheme, preparation, absence of mistake or opportunity.
You're aware of the fact that my client, Mr. Stillwell, because this is a RICO case, is being tried for 2 murders at the same time, correct?
I am familiar with the second murder from earlier this year, yes.
You're also aware that because this is a RICO case that was indicted in 2022, my client is accused of over a dozen overt acts that are listed in the indictment.
I am generally aware of the format of the indictment. I haven't studied it. If you're telling me that, then I'm sure that's true.
You would agree that oftentimes, if people are simultaneously accused of 2 separate crimes, they receive different trials for different crimes, correct? Different allegations.
Well, it would depend on if it was, for example, a crime spree based, temporal proximity being very close, that the incidents are almost considered one continuous incident, then you may indict them together. But particularly given the length of time between the 2 incidents, you would generally indict them separately, correct?
Okay, so, and you're aware that the other murder that is alleged against my client is from 2022.
Correct.
You would agree that that would not have temporal proximity, correct?
No, I would, no, if these were just 2 completely independent murders, I would not put the 2015 murder on the same indictment as the 2022 murder. They'd be 2 different murders under normal circumstances.
As a lawyer, can you see where that would be prejudicial against my client?
Well, yes, I suppose if you were to have 2 murders on the indictment, then the jury would be told initially that there was a finding of probable cause on not 1, but 2 different murders. And so I can understand that.
What about evidence being presented and discussed about the actions of other individuals for things that occurred years after 2015? Would those typically come in for a murder that happened in 2015?
Well, it would depend. If it was a gang-related murder, maybe. Because, when there's a gang charge that's placed on somebody, then there's a lot more evidence that can come in related to the street gang.
What about if your office decided to indict this 2015 incident in a timely manner and didn't wait till 2022? Would this case have
Objection, Your
already been
Honor.
tried?
Objection as to speculative and argumentative.
I sustain the objection.
Are you, through your investigation, did you come across a gentleman by the name of Termon Stillwell?
I did. Yeah, Detective Thorpe and I spoke with him, I believe, in early 2016.
Okay, and Termon Stillwell, who found Termon Stillwell?
I believe it was Detective Thorpe. It wasn't me, so it must have been Detective Thorpe. And I don't recall how he learned about Termon Stillwell.
Ever ask Detective Thorpe about the circumstances on how he found Tremont Stillwell?
Objection, Your Honor, as to the relevance.
Yeah, what's the relevance, sir?
I mean, this is the investigation we've been talking
Hold on,
about.
Mr. Sprinkle, what's the,
This is the investigation we've been talking about that we admitted this report as part of, and I'm asking about the investigation. I'm cross-examining the investigation.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead, Mr. Sprinkle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead and answer that.
So if I remember correctly, he was in the Fulton County Jail. Well, we interviewed him at APD, but he was brought over from the Fulton County Jail. Contemporaneous with his arrest, he told, and from what I remember, he definitely told somebody with the Atlanta Police Department that he had information on the murder. And if I remember correctly, and she also said she wasn't fond of Tremont Stillwell because, going back to the case in which she was a victim, because of him beating on her. At the time of the interview, Mr. Tremont Stillwell was still in the Fulton County Jail. All I remember is that when we brought up Shannon, her mood, she was relatively pleasant at the beginning of the interview. And, after we discussed the battery and moved on to Shannon, she was, her mood changed. Shannon Stillwell, your client, her mood changed rather dramatically. In fact, it culminated in her storming out of the room and basically running out of the office.
Right. And she made it clear to you that you shouldn't believe a word that Tremont Stillwell says.
She called him a liar.
Right.
She, as she stormed out, I believe she called him a liar.
He's unreliable.
Right. That's what she said.
And you don't dispute that Miss Guffey knows Mr. Tremont Stillwell very well.
No, she knew him pretty well. She was a victim on a family violence battery case, so you have to know somebody pretty well to be considered a victim of a family violence offense.
Okay.
Mr. Sharp, before you pose your next question, how much longer do you think you'll have?
I was about to ask like 3 more questions.
Oh.
Unlike Mr. Menendez, I think I'm being...
Who's 2 is not really 2?
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'll be the judge of that, okay? This is number 1 coming up right
pressure
here,
on.
okay?
Pressure on. Mr. Sprinkle, did Miss Guffey indicate to you that she was not... Did she ever indicate to you that she had heard Shannon Stillwell say anything about a murder?
No. Without even refreshing my recollection, I mean, the interview ended pretty abruptly after she realized that we were asking about Shannon Stillwell. It wouldn't have even got... She was no longer participating in the interview, essentially. Towards the end, I was trying to ask her questions as she ran away from me, so...
Which they knew
She
that.
told you that she doesn't know anything about the statement that Shannon Stillwell allegedly made to Tremont Stillwell.
That's correct.
That Tremont Stillwell claimed that she witnessed.
That's correct.
Okay. Are you aware of where Miss Vanetta Guffey is now?
Well, I've been told, and this I haven't independently verified it, but as of yesterday, it's my understanding she's deceased.
Okay.
She didn't die yesterday. I learned about it yesterday.
Right. I beg the court's indulgence just briefly. Mr. Sprinkle, you, as part of your investigations, do you stay abreast to what's going on at 901 Rice Street?
Well, yes, particularly with respect to the jail calls.
Okay. Are you aware that there have been multiple attacks on my client, Shannon Stillwell, since, and when I say attacks, stabbings, he's been incarcerated this year?
This year?
Yes.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Are you aware of multiple attacks on Shannon Stillwell while he's been incarcerated?
Objection, Your Honor, as to relevance,
It's
as to whether or not the defendant has been
Prejudice.
attacked.
He's been incarcerated for a long time, and it's certainly relevant that he's
It
been
is.
attacked.
I'll overrule the objection.
remember a time in late 2015, which would have been around the time he was arrested. He was actually a witness on a murder case. And he was in the same area of the jail as some rival gang members. That's about all, and that there was an issue with that, but that's about all I remember. I don't remember anything about him being attacked.
Are you aware that he's on 23-hour lockdown for his own safety at this time?
No, I didn't know about that.
I don't have anything else, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sprinkle.
All right, Madam, Ms. Love.
Thank you, Judge.
It's about 1:30. Can we take a comfort lunch lunch break to 2:15, and then we'll resume at that point in time, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We're going to be in recess until 2:15, and we'll come back at that point in time.
So it seems as if they might have went to break or something. And guys, we'll be back.